So I figured we start seeing more of these type of headlines. Stock market crash headlines. You'll start seeing these more and more everywhere. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. The market is bleeding right now. I mean, bleeding. But if you talk to some people, they look at it as the market's on a discount. It's on clearance. This is where a lot of people get rich. You know what I mean? This is where lives are changed. This is where generational wealth is created in these times. So it all depends on how you look at it. And if your strategy aligns and you have a way to position yourself and you got a lot of cash ready, this right here can be a game changer. But we're going to get into it. All right. So listen, you know how this goes, man. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
So top U.S. economists are predicting a stock market crash this year that's going to be worse than the 2008 financial crisis. And whether this happens or not, there are writings on the wall that God is trying to bring your attention to. Ever since 2020, things have been spiraling out of control, and that is because God is trying to show you the times that we are in so he can bring you closer to him. Many people woke up after the event that happened in 2020 because of the uncertainty that was caused in the world. People begin to realize that life is temporal and that so many things we hold dear to don't actually mean anything. This is not a bad thing at all. It is actually a very good thing. We are so busy that we put no time or thought to God and his teachings. Many of us say that we love the Lord Jesus Christ but haven't opened our Bible in months. I understand that nobody is perfect, and I understand that we all go through our own trials and tribulations. But guys, can you not see what's happening in the world? Time is running out, and the things that we once perceived to be our security are proving to be our liability. One of my favorite things in the Bible that Jesus said is that I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, but men would not buy it of him. And what he's saying is, you guys spend all this time and all this energy into your careers, all this time and energy into your hobbies, all of this time and energy into satisfying your needs and your demands and the wants and the lusts of the flesh. But you did not spend much time in my word, spend much time in prayer, spend much time in loving and in alms and fasting. Every second you spend reading the word, praying, praising the name of the Lord, you are investing your time, which you will redeem and get that return in eternity. As the stocks of the world continue to plummet and as we spiral deeper into Bible prophecy, let us place our trust, our time, our energy in the Lord, because it will not be mistreated and it will be redeemed. So top U.S. economy.
I'm not here to tell you what to believe in or who to believe in. You know what I mean? But it does get you to thinking that a lot of this stuff that we hold near and dear and we treasure so deep, it's not real. It means nothing at the end of the day. You know what I mean? The stock market. And y'all know how much faith I place in that, or attention. Let me say not faith, but attention I pay to it. You know, at the end of the day, what does it mean? They get you going. Oh, it's about to crash. And then when it V-shaped recovers, they're like, oh, you should have bought. You should have bought when it was down there. Like, they play this game often. Now, take that how you want with it. Read between the lines of what that could mean. And you have to ask yourself, are we prepared? I know a lot of people like to say, yeah, we're prepared, but just think back to a lot of things that have happened and taken place to where we haven't looked like we've been prepared. The weather balloon, or whatever you want to call the spy balloon, and everything that happened with that, the drone situation to where all the drones was over important places, and it doesn't look like it. So I know they're speaking of tariffs, but I read between the lines a lot. This could mean more.
There's no way this guy's doing. Oh no. Code.
Like, at this point, I hate going to the mall. I do. You don't know if you're gonna be walking into a shootout or some kids playing around too much, too far. Like, yeah, bro. Like, I just wanted to come here and grab a pair of sneakers and some clothes. That's it. I didn't want my life to be in danger. I didn't want to have to try to dodge things being tossed over top of a balcony or something. No, I just wanted to, whatever happened to the good old days of just going to the mall, getting something, going to the food court. Like, even a food court, you got to have your head on a swivel these days, man. Like, the mall has become so unsafe. So if I'm in there, I'm beelining to my destination, getting what I need to get, seeing what I need to see, and then I'm out of there. I'm not trying to stay long, fam. The mall has become that place to me. Don't want to stay long.
So Donald Trump brought down the House at his joint address to Congress, while Democrats brought down their poll numbers. Yo, Democrats, they don't call it a joint address because you're supposed to sit there frozen like you smoked a joint and you don't know what to do. And here's a pro tip. If you're going to call yourself the party of the youth, maybe don't start the night with an old man shaking a cane while the rest of the team holds up bingo paddles. I mean, no offense to Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi, but I've seen younger faces on money. But it wasn't the fact that Democrats looked old. It was the fact that they acted like little spoiled brats. No applause for protecting women's sports. No applause for the moms who lost their daughters to illegal immigrants. They couldn't even put together a round of applause when a little boy with cancer became a Secret Service agent. And this is the same party that cheers when little boys become little girls. Go figure. Long story short, Democrats, if you can't stand for kids with cancer, you're definitely not going to be able to stand the election results. So keep it up, and you're the ones that are going to keep getting paddled.
I think both sides were ridiculous that night, Democrat and Republican. I feel like the Democrats weren't showing any type of emotion or anything other than Al Green. They just sat there. When they talked about the kid, which was crazy. I'm not gonna clap for a kid with cancer. And Republicans don't sit there and beat your chest. Like half of them that was standing up applauding, they were doing it out of spite. They weren't even facing what either the kid or facing Trump. They were facing the Democrats. Like, we're just clapping because you're not, and just it all looked bad. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, all of it looked bad for both sides. It looked ridiculous. Bad optics.
I believe that a lot of people are going to come over to the Republican side. I think the Democrats are they are killing their own selves. And I got a very good hope for the Republican Party. I mean, more and more people are seeing the true colors of the Democrats. And it took me, 20 years to see that. And I woke up. I'm very confident American people will wake up too.
So I found out, a friend texted me the morning of February 14th, sent me a link to the Washington Post article saying that the national park was mandated to terminate their probationary employees. Tried not to think about it for the day. I was working on putting a report together that I was really proud of, and I was trying to finish it by 5 o'clock.
Jessica, why did you want to come here?
I wanted to speak out for my former colleagues at the National Park Service and those that were terminated who maybe aren't able to give their voice. And I wanted to show my face and tell my story to humanize this to the American people and to those in Washington, that we're not some faceless workers. We were extremely well qualified and vetted to do our jobs, and we were indiscriminately let go. As of now, I have not been able to collect unemployment. I am still waiting for the 2 forms that are required to be issued from the federal government to proceed through Pennsylvania with unemployment. And I don't know even if I am able to provide those forms, given that I was issued a termination letter. I'm certainly ready to appeal that, but I know that that may also preclude me. So
Now the job market is about to seriously become competitive. You're having a lot of people laid off with a lot of different credentials and qualifications that are now going to be competing for jobs that they wouldn't be looking at otherwise normally. So it's about to get extremely competitive out here, man. See, and that's scary. And then she just told you how hard she worked. Listen, I was trying to get my report done by 5 o'clock. So the narrative being spent about people not working or being lazy or just not showing up to work and stuff like that, that's not everybody. Are there some? Absolutely. There's absolutely a lot of people getting by that needs to be weeded out. The problem is some that are being weeded out aren't the ones that are lazy. Aren't the ones that are not showing up to work, aren't the ones. And that's the sad part about it. So it's like, I don't know, man. This continues to be scary because every day I'm hearing about a new person.
The chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
you called it nasty. It was like 4 minutes into the speech when Congressman Al Green was yelling at the podium and he was escorted out. What was going through your head as you heard the congressman yelling?
Well, look, the bottom line is lots of people are frustrated, but the best way to protest what Trump is doing what we are doing and many senators and many congressmen are doing, and that is organizing against these horrible policies of calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme and then slashing people in Social Security offices.
That Congressman
So here's
Green,
what we're John, here's what we're doing.
Would you rather that he not yell?
Here, let me just say, the best answer, in my judgment, is to organize. So I put a call together last week with our activists. I thought 300-400 people would get on the phone. 3,000 people got on the phone. And what we all decided was we're going to focus our energy on the 6 Republican Congress members from New York, because they hold the key to stopping these horrible policies. As you know, in the House, all you need 1 or 2. In the Senate, you need 3 or 4. We don't have Republican senators in New York, but in other states there are. And the best way to organize and protest is to organize. Organizing is hard, but it's effective, and that's what we're doing.
A destructive blizzard from an unusually powerful March storm has taken over the central U.S. Cars were stuck in the dangerous conditions in Iowa, and people were warned to stay off the roads. The snow wasn't quite the main force. There were only a few inches of it, but it was blown around by hurricane-force wind gusts that topped 90 miles per hour, creating the whiteout.
I don't care about sustainability within clothes. I have finite time on this earth, just like everybody else does. I leave that for the future generations to sort out.
I'm constantly thinking about the garments that I own, where I get them from, and like what I'm going to do with them once I'm finished with them.
Being a student, you've not got much money, like cheaper clothes are always from the non-sustainable places.
I got it from a charity shop, this is my older brother's.
These are pretty little thing. Tariff. Pretty little thing.
This jacket and this jumper are both from Vintage.
Can't lie, I got these from Shein, because yeah, I'm broke like that. These are custom forces that I got from Vinted.
River Island. This is a charity shop.
My pits are Hollister. Everything else I've thrifted.
I don't really think, I'm not going to lie. If I like the clothes, I like the clothes. And when I'm done, I just give them charity.
I like to think I'll keep them for, for a very long period of time.
I don't care about sustainability.
That's one thing you can't say about this generation. Like, even my son is like that. Like, I've never heard people talk about thrifting when I was growing up. If you got caught dead in certain type of pants or certain type of clothing, you were clowned, you were picked on, it was bad growing up in school. So you didn't want to show up and, you had to get what your parents could afford. True. But you tried to make the best out of that. And that way you weren't getting picked on. This generation, I applaud them because they don't care. They don't care about, not all of them, some do, but the most part, they don't care about the name brand designers and stuff like that. They'll piece it together, or they'll thrift. They'll do different things and make it work. Like the jersey with the hoodie, that's a go-to that I like. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. I don't get it what we were going through growing up.
Bacterial vaginosis might actually be an STI, new research says. BV affects nearly a third of women worldwide. It's not usually serious and is normally treated with antibiotics, but in some more severe cases it can lead to infertility, premature births and newborn deaths. At the moment, the NHS website says it's caused by a change in the natural balance of bacteria in your vagina and is not an STI, even though it can be triggered by sex. But now, a new study says BV is spread during intercourse and fits the definition of an STI. The Australian trial found that when they treated it as an STI, giving both sexual partners the antibiotics, BV recurrence was halved. Bacterial vaginosis might...
Okay, ladies, that was clearly for y'all. Like, I don't even begin to understand what they were even talking about, nor do I need to know. So that was an update for y'all. You know what I mean? Y'all do what you will with it. I'm going to keep it going.
In all these store shelves, the American sections are completely empty. Canada is not taking these tariffs lying down. You want a sign that it's really serious? Don't screw with alcohol, because in addition to the 25% counter tariffs that Prime Minister Trudeau has announced on billions of dollars on American imports, there's also unilateral action that's being taken here in Canada. For example, at the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, they have pledged that they will not sell any American alcohol until the United States decides to end this trade war. And that amounts to $1 billion annually. In fact, the LCBO is one of the biggest single consumers of American alcohol. And so you can see in all these store shelves, the American sections.
Wow. Boy, we about to see the pettiness of the pettiness come out. Everything is about to be petty. Everything is about to be tit for tat, tit for tat. Oh, you did this, we're gonna do this. Oh, you did this, we're gonna do this. They did this, we're gonna do this then. Like we're about to see how low we can get in the mud with each other, bro.
Right next to the highway. Since I've been here, you can't even see the mountain anymore, but it started way back there. And I mean, it came down all the way up and over. This is just going up. Yeah, it's probably best if we start getting out. It's coming. Yeah, I'm right behind you.
Man, I just took vacation in, I think it was Gatlinburg a couple years back, man. Beautiful place. Had an amazing time, man. Was in the cabin. That whole cabin experience, bro. Oh my gosh. And to see this, I hate it for that town, that area, man. All nice people that I met down there, walking down that little strip, going to the restaurants where they throw stuff at you and cuss at you. What's the name of that? I forget the name of that restaurant, man. But oh, it was Dick's. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was Dick's. Yeah. Amazing, bro. To see this. My only knock about, what was it, Gatlinburg? I think it was. It wasn't Pigeon Forge, it was Gatlinburg. They shut down early around there. Early. Man, I hate this, man. I hate to see this happen to them, bro. Prayers to them.
A Florida woman who was arrested while trying to get back at her ex-boyfriend. Newly released body cam footage shows deputies responding to a call about a woman vandalizing a car with yellow spray paint.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing, right? Yeah, but listen to this. Here's what's wrong with that. They found the 18-year-old and her 16-year-old friend at the scene. Police say the woman admitted that she was upset at her ex, so she decided to paint and throw eggs at the car. This was the end result. Let's show that picture. There's only one problem.
Is his name Jason?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
There's only one problem. It's not the right car. It actually belongs to a neighbor. So the sheriff's office posted the photo on their official X account, writing, "Oops, wrong car." One of the deputies at the scene had this advice.
You really need to try harder to try to be sneaky because you are god-awful. And you guys spray painted the wrong damn car.
A Florida woman who was
Oh, man. Only in Florida, bro. Only in Florida. What you mean, what's wrong with that? Vandalism is what's wrong with that. She's like, yeah, what's wrong with that? No, you don't say that. What you mean, what's wrong with that? It's a lot of things wrong with that. Like, I don't get it, man. This timeline that we on, we got to switch back. We got to go back.
The era of free trade with Canada and Mexico is in the past.
Yep.
What's in the future?
So look, I think that tariffs can sometimes be a very valuable tool. You're trying to protect a little industry that's starting to grow in the United States. You need to onshore a supply chain. We need to get, for example, more of our pharmaceutical production done here at home. It's a danger having it done somewhere else. But simply saying you are a country and we're going to put a tariff in place for everything you've done for Canada, I got to tell you, putting a tariff on maple syrup doesn't help us here at home. All it does is drive up prices for, everybody who wants to eat pancakes.
The president's case is look, we're going to bring manufacturing back to America.
And I like pancakes, bro. I don't care to pay a lot more for the syrup to go on top of the pancakes. And I'm not just eating a plain pancake. So we need to get this done and fixed pretty quickly for the sake of pancakes.
And we're going to force our neighbors to help us with fentanyl interdiction and illegal immigration.
Look, Donald Trump can say whatever he wants to say. He tries to throw up a sandstorm of arguments and confusion. But, for example, with Canada, really, we don't have those kinds of problems with Canada. They've done everything they can. They're a cooperative neighbor here. And across-the-board tariffs like this, just so that Donald Trump can beat his chest about how tough he is with a neighbor, it's not helping us. What it's doing is it's driving up costs. And this is the part we have to remember on the frame. Remember what Donald Trump said when he ran for office. He said he would lower prices for American families on day one. Those were his words. Ran on it, said in his first interview after he was elected, he thinks he was elected because of that. And now here we are 6 weeks in. And all he is doing is driving costs up for families, not bringing them down.
Federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. We are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
Does anybody feel like they understand better why they were fired after watching the speech tonight? Nobody. Yeah. When President Trump said,
"My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy,"
it bugged you in a particular way. How come?
Well, I think for myself, being a presidential management fellow, this is a 100%, merit-based program. People coming in are taking jobs that have lesser pay. They want to serve the American public. And for you to, blanket statements saying the entire bureaucracy is untamed and, doesn't have any tethering to anything. I mean, look at us. We're everyday average Americans that just want to serve the American public, and we're not allowed to do that.
The part that I watched you react to most strongly was when he said,
the media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
What bugged you so much about that?
I think the demonization of immigrants in the speech today was as disappointing as it was frightening. And the thing that bothered me is it's a multifaceted approach that we need to attack the immigration problem, and it's been an issue over multiple presidents.
Which you yourself have been working on in terms of efficiency.
Definitely. Part of it are legislative fixes, but the other part are really process and tech improvements. And by getting rid of the subject matter experts that do this work for decades and the people who have the tech capabilities, and then more importantly, the trust that you build between agencies, you can gut something in 5 minutes, but to get the apparatus back up and running, that might take 5 years.
So since losing Bailey, we've had a lot of paranormal things happen here, and last night I looked at the security camera out front and there was 4 orbs on the camera. I've saw orbs on the camera before, but never as many as 4. I do live really close to the Trail of Tears, which is on a back road, so there could be a lot of paranormal things from that. Also, my daughter did pass away, and like I've said, crazy things happen here. My TV turns on, it goes to channels. We've had the electricity part looked at. There's nothing wrong with it. The TV's been reset. Lights flicker. I've had like videoing in the living room whenever there has been an orb, and it will literally run across the floor. When I was in the bathroom on Christmas Day, the toilet paper started rolling really fast. No one was even touching it. And the only person that happened to was my daughter, who is now deceased. So I'm just curious, like, does anyone else experience these things? Or is it like just, I mean, I know it's not just me, but like we have a lot of stuff that goes on here, and I've actually reached out to a few people that does paranormal activity stuff, and no one's ever gotten back to me. But like for real, when I go to Bailey's grave and I talk to her, I swear to you that spinner has communication with me some way, somehow. Either that or I'm crazy. But when you've lost a kid, you'll literally look for comfort anywhere you can get it.
President Trump's 25% tariffs on almost everything coming from Mexico and Canada already having a real-world impact. Distributors are seeing higher prices for things like avocados, tomatoes, and more. And fruits and vegetables from Mexico aren't the only items getting pricier. CNN's Natasha Chen has been looking into this for us. She's joining us now. Natasha, what are you learning?
Well, this importer and distributor here in Los Angeles prepared for this moment, knowing the tariffs were going to come. They actually ordered a bunch of avocados to arrive on Monday before the tariffs took effect. So these pallets of avocados that you see were at original price, but had they ordered them to arrive today, they would have paid 25% more out of pocket for this to cross the border. Now, the limes, however, these ones did come in today, and they're already more expensive than the same box would have been on Monday, because on Monday it would have cost this company about $30 to bring in each box. Add on that 25% tariff, now it's $37, $38, and of course that cost is passed along. Their customers are other distributors and supermarkets, and so some of them are actually right across the street opening their doors right now, getting ready for their clients, customers potentially from restaurants around Los Angeles coming to them to find produce. So you can see how this cost just trickles on to pass on to the next person and the next person, ultimately to the consumer. Here's what the sales manager, Jaime Herrera, said about this moment of uncertainty.
It is hard to sleep at night because you're thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? I go, are we going to have enough customers? As it is, like you mentioned earlier, ICE is on the streets. People are not buying. Consumers are limiting themselves. And we're bringing in all these products, not knowing whether we're going to be able to sell it or not. And we're not only that, but the savings that we have on the side, we're now bringing it out because we have to pay those tariffs that we have. So it's decapitalizing a little bit. And so that's what's concerning, is that we're going to get decapitalized really quick.
Man, a lot of businesses going to have some tough decisions to make here pretty soon. Tough decisions, and I hate to see it. Even the consumers, even us, when we go out to restaurants, remember you used to go to a restaurant and you go and you inch closer when you grab that menu, you inch closer to that seafood section, and you get there and it say either market or season, whatever it says, it don't have a price beside it. A lot more things is going to be like that in that menu pretty soon. You know what I mean? For those of you who love avocado toast, it's about to get expensive for you to have that. Like, this is scary.
And of course, there are now retaliatory tariffs as well, retaliatory actions after Canada started pulling U.S.-made liquor from its shelves earlier. The CEO of Brown-Forman, which makes Jack Daniel's whiskey, said that the move was disproportionate. Here's the quote: "That's worse than a tariff because it's literally taking your sales away." Now, of course, depending on the product, depending on the actual bit of produce, there could be different winners and losers in this. If American growers are making the same thing as the Mexican growers in the same season, maybe they can stand to benefit short term, but all of this is a very unpredictable, hard to do business for the people trying to make it work.
But you got to have somebody in the fields. You got to have somebody, there's no one in the fields. The people that were working in the fields are scared to go to the fields because they're in threat to be deported. So it's like, and then that's a whole nother conversation to be had, because you're like, okay, they're illegal, so can you really get mad? But then you got this problem of, okay, so we have nobody in the fields. Now things are gonna get expensive from that standpoint. So it's like,
Let's talk more about tariffs. The tariff detour from President Trump. A 1-month reprieve from the tariff slapped on all vehicles coming from Mexico and Canada. While the 3 biggest U.S. automakers now have a 30-day break, the 25% tariffs on all other goods coming from the countries still remain. That includes oil. The U.S. is Canada's largest energy customer. The U.S. received about 97% of Canadian oil exports in 2023. Most of those exports come from Alberta, Canada's largest oil producer. Joining me right now is the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith. Premier, thank you very much. So where things stand today, does a 1-month pause on auto tariffs change things for your province?
I was just looking at your pretty grim jobs number, and I can tell you it's only going to get worse in March. I mean, you've already had 100,000 private sector job losses in the first 2 months of the year. And now with these tariffs overlaid, it's creating a dynamic where instead of talking about how we can each buy more from each other, so both of us can benefit from higher job growth, now a tariff war creates the dynamic where each nation is going to buy less from each other. And that may include oil and gas, but if it doesn't include oil and gas immediately, then it's just going to be higher costs. I've seen some of the analysis that 40 cents a liter, or pardon me, 40 cents a gallon is going to be the increase in the amount of gasoline prices at the pump that relies on Canadian oil for the supply. So this isn't good for American consumers. It's not good for American job creators or those who need to work. And I think it's only going to get worse as long as these tariffs stay in place.
What is it going to mean for people in Alberta?
I can tell you that because we have 4.3 million barrels of oil, we've got access to the West Coast through a brand new pipeline, Trans Mountain. Our oil goes all the way down to the Gulf Coast. If the Americans don't want to buy our products, if that's part of the solution is that they want to buy less from us, then we're going to have to look for new markets for our oil and gas, for our uranium, for our nickel, for all of our critical minerals, for our electricity. And again, I don't think that that's the intention of what American job creators want. I think they want those raw materials so they can create good American jobs, so they can create American goods that the world can buy. But that is, unfortunately, the reality of what we're seeing. As long as these tariffs stay in place, we're going to have to start looking for new markets. I prefer to work with the Americans on increasing the amount that we sell, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards right now.
Where this started was, as the Trump's trade advisor said to me often, this is a drug war, not a trade war. Donald Trump said after a call with the Canadian Prime Minister that efforts to slow fentanyl trafficking across the U.S.-Canada border is still, quote unquote, not good enough. Setting aside the fact that less than 1% of the fentanyl coming into the United States came through Canada, that clearly does not matter to him. Is there more that you and your province can do on that front, do you think?
Our province has really met the objectives. We're putting $30 million into interdiction teams for contraband smuggling, including tobacco, which is a problem we know. We've got another $30 million that we've got sheriffs at the border with drugs, sniffer dogs, drones, and Black Hawk helicopters. We've been doing more commercial vehicle inspections. And in point of fact, we've actually found cocaine and crystal meth coming up from America. So we have a North America-wide drug problem. If you think it is just Canada and Mexico, you'd have to believe there are no cartels or organized crime or meth labs happening in the United States. We know that to not be true. So we can only do a portion of the work in making sure that we're addressing this egregious drug death problem. The Americans have to do some of the work internally themselves and can't just blame their neighbors for that. This is a North America-wide problem, and America included.
Which raises the question of what...
This reminds me of the episode of The Wire. If y'all are familiar with The Wire, the show, I love that show from back in the day. The Wire, I still watch it once a year. But when Carcetti became mayor, right, first thing he did was started going around to all the departments, right? And he was like, he went around to one of the departments and he was like, there's a hydrant leaking. He walked in and said that and walked out. He didn't tell them where it was located. So now they started working on all the hydrants, making sure they were good. And then he walked around and he was like, man, somebody called. He walked into somebody's office. Somebody called and said there's some trash or some car or something blocking. So then they had to go every street. Like, this makes me think, is Trump going around and saying, okay, tariff on you. Okay, now it got them putting these troops, deploying troops down to the borders, spending however many millions of dollars or billions of dollars on that to slow and stop the drugs from coming into the U.S. and different things like that, slow the on down to the Mexican border, to slow the immigration people from coming in, like the immigrants from coming in illegally. Like, do you think he's running around saying, do this, and then once he gets it under control, he takes the tariffs off? Just to say, it's kind of like a flex of power to say, you're going to do this is going to happen, and then once they get the systems in place, we're good friends again. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out and throw different things at the wall to try to figure out everything that's happening or what's the end goal here, if these relationships can be repaired between us and Canada, us and Mexico, different things that are happening, or are we're damaging to the point to where it's beyond repair when we get to the end of this thing? Like, where is everything gonna stand?
Is good enough, and what is the marker that needs to be met in order for all of these tariffs to be lifted once again? What I do want to ask you that one way you are responding is I saw that you're pushing all liquor stores in the province to pull American-made alcohol. The CEO of Jack Daniel's parent company just this morning called the move to pull the bottles disproportionate. Here's the quote: "That's worse than a tariff because it's literally taking your sales away." Worse than a tariff. Does that make you think twice about the move?
Well, I guess what we're seeing with the tariffs, what's the purpose of them? The purpose of them is so that American businesses buy fewer Canadian.
Tito's. Oh my gosh, they're taking the Tito's down. I saw them take the Maker's Mark down first. They were taking that down. Like, wow. The Tito's, bro.
Products. So our reaction is, well, if the Americans aren't going to buy products from our Canadian companies, we have to. And so that means that we should be buying more Canadian beer and more Canadian spirits and more Canadian wine. And so that's the reality of what we're facing. We're also looking at all of our procurement. Government buys a lot of goods and does a lot of contracts through the provincial level, federal level, municipal level, school board level. And we're asking them to do the same thing. If our Canadian companies are going to be heard, it's the best way we can help them is to redirect our purchasing for products that are available here, produced by Canadian suppliers. Again, it's not ideal. That is just going to exacerbate American job losses. It's going to reduce the amount of dollars going into the American economy in order to create additional jobs. I think it's important to remember, Canada is the largest consumer of American goods of anyone in the world, even though we're only 1/10 your size. And what the reality of the tariffs is doing is it's causing us to look for other places to buy our products. So the sooner they're gone, the better. It'll be better for both economies, and I hope that happens very quickly.
Well, we will stand by on that. Premier Danielle Smith, thank you very much for your time.